So we're gonna get the results, right? Draw 30-second conclusions, follow-up questions. So can you ask me, oh, I need deeper insight onto this. Ask for my recommendations. So if I'm an analytics team, I hand you a dashboard and be like, what do you recommend? I've already looked at it. I've seen the state of the data. They've seen what they needed to see. They might ask for my interpretation, my recommendations. What do I need to do? That's okay. A dashboard, that's what allows you to do. Follow up on insights. So, oh, okay, we saw these, I saw these days were lower. This is what happened during these days. Okay, I'm gonna go act on it. Like I said, 30 seconds. From time I get the piece of paper, either in my inbox or physically on my desk, to the time I'm able to do one of these three things. Again, it's not going to answer all the questions. No data answers every question ever. But it's going to answer the important questions, and it's going to allow me to do something with it. Stop wasting my time on looking for and figuring out what the report means. More time trying to make my company more money, make my job a lot easier, do those sorts of things. That's what's important for your stakeholders that are going to be receiving these sorts of things. That's why you're doing the data. It's your job to do it, but it's their job to act on it. So just review 6 steps, right? We got requirements gathering, data gathering, rough draft, revise, got our first build, and then we revisit and finalize and sign off on it. So, and I think these pictures do a really good job of kind of illustrating the kind of flow from start, rough draft, to a finished product. There's a lot of steps in between, a lot more steps, and a dashboard, there's a micro steps for each. I mean, I can speak to this for the next 3 hours on how exactly we're gonna, maybe we need to use Excel a little better, or this part we're gonna use Access or whatever. There's a lot of little steps, but knowing Excel is kind of our lowest common denominator generally in the analytics world. Most corporations, everyone has access to Excel. I will not bet the farm that everyone knows how to use it well. I will at least say that they've opened it at one point. So I talk a lot about Excel because it's the lowest common denominator across corporations and students and everything. You have access to Excel, things like that. SAS, SQL, things like that. Those are a lot more specialized at enterprise level.
So like everything exports to a CSV at its most basic level.
Yeah, I mean, you can get other points of data to export to a CSV easily. Yeah, I mean, I get reports like web analytics data. We use Amateur Site Catalyst. I don't know how familiar you guys are with web analytics, but it's owned by Adobe. It's one of the many platforms out there. They all do relatively the same thing. I think Adobe's product does the best job of it for an enterprise client. If your blog or your own little, if you're run your own little like small business, Google Analytics might be the best way for you. But once you move up to enterprise level stuff and you start getting to variable customization, and that's another 5-hour presentation on that. There's a never-ending world of Site Catalyst insights, and they have a whole 4-day conference dedicated to just Site Catalyst. So, and I've been to it. It's awesome, but it's intense because it's a big tool. But you're talking enterprise clients, REI, okay? Us, big companies. I mean, basically, you think of a big internet presence company, they're using Site Catalyst. Amazon, biggest internet company there is. Amazon.com, most well-known, I bet at least. They use Site Catalyst. They use actually a number of Adobe products. So it's obviously, I would consider it the corporate standard, but again, It's a lot of money. You have to pay for it. Google Analytics is free. So if you're on your own little website or running a small, very small business, Google Analytics might be the best for you. But yeah, everything kind of exports to a CSV. Kind of exactly kind of your point, right? Is that I get data dumps from Catalyst to CSV. From internal SQL reports, I get that into an Excel file or CSV. So it's easy to compile and it's easy to make Excel look pretty. I think that's a lost art form in a lot of ways. And it's an art form I've had to work on hard for the last 3 years. I've moved from just giving tables of information to people because some companies are comfortable with just here's a table of data. That's all they need, that's all they want. But realistically, to get the most value out of it, the quickest, it needs to be pretty. It needs to be easy on the eyes. It needs to focus your attention to the correct places. So I've worked really hard personally on getting my Excel skills as far as customization of how it looks up to, I just call it up to par. You know, I was not very good at it for a long time. I would say that there are still people who are much, much better than I am at it, but I'm at least better than average at this point. Better than average for a web analytics, you know, consulting type firm, type job, whatever. So that's why I kind of harp on Excel, but these principles apply no matter what tool you're using, no matter what department you're in. It's the same process, the same principles, you know, no matter what, you know. So like I said, I think these pictures, and while they go, you know, you see the flow really easy, you know that there's a lot of steps in there. But again, it's knowing Excel. It's knowing, you know, if you're working for a company, it's knowing where to get your data. Sometimes the hardest part of a dashboard is, I need this piece of data, I know I can get it, but I don't know where to go. You gotta figure it out. You know, again, but those are more job specific things. That's part of you getting to know where you're working. If you ask for a piece of data in an account, even if I can't pull it personally, I know that I probably can get it, and I know where to point you to in order for you to get that data. So it's part of your education, again, whether you're in analytics or not, to know where and what data you can get, so that when you're asked these sorts of questions, you can answer them, or at least point them to the right people. Whether it's just, oh, you need to go ask the analytics team, or, oh, you need to go ask the database analytics